Hey guys, today we're going to continue factoring, and today we're going to be factoring completely. So we're going to find every single little piece that could multiply to give you your final polynomial. So we're going to kind of combine everything that we've been doing the past couple days. So the first thing that we did with our factoring unit, and the first thing that you should always do, is look and see if you have a GCF. So we're looking for the greatest common factor within all of our terms. So on number one, if we're going to take this guy and factor it, we're going to need to see, okay, what can I pull out of each of these? And if you remember on Monday, we did our little T's, and we said, what are the factors of 2? Well, 1 and 2, and then there were 3 x's. Okay, and then we did the same thing for 4. We said, what are the factors of 4? Well, 1 and 4, and 2 and 2, and then they repeat. So then 2 x's. And then I could list out all the factors of 70, but knowing what I'm looking for here, and that I only have a factor of 2, and that this is an even number, it's probably going to be the 2. So 2 and 35, and then x. Then you're going to go ahead and pull out those common things. So again, I have a 2. Cross out the things that you don't need. And then I can take out 1x from each of these. So when I have my GCF, remember you take your 2 times your x just once. Then you're going to write what's left. So there was a negative in the front. I have 2 x's left over. Okay, then there was a positive. I have 2 and then 1x. And then right here, I just have a 35 left. Okay, now this would have been perfect on Monday. I would have been happy with this. However, there's a really, really big problem here, and that's that there's a negative in front of my squared term. You can technically factor this, it's just going to be a big pain in the butt. So make a note to yourself, we can't leave a negative in front of your squared term. So in order to remedy that, to get rid of that problem, I'm just going to go ahead and change every sign in here. So instead of having, let me use a different color, instead of having a positive 2x, I'm going to take out a negative 2x. I want this guy to be positive. This guy will turn negative, and this guy will turn negative. Okay, and so really what you've done here is you just changed all your signs. So the real thing that I am now factoring is negative 2x times all of the stuff in the middle. So this is not done though. We need to see, can I factor the stuff in the parentheses? So we're just going to see if I can factor this x squared minus 2x minus 35. And we're going to do the same thing that we did yesterday with that T box. So when I use my box, again, you're going to put in your first term in that top left. You're going to put in your last term in the bottom right, and then put in your 2 x's. Now with your t, remember you're going to multiply your a and your c. So if you forgot how to find these, the a is the number in front of the x squared, that's a 1. Your b is a negative 2, the number in front of the x, and your c is negative 35. So a times c is negative 35 times 1, or negative 35. So we're going to list out the factors of negative 35, and remember, we're trying to make them add up to be negative 2. So we could have like 1 and negative 35. Those are kind of far apart. Let's think about 5 and negative 7, and maybe negative 5 and positive 7. Okay, if I add these together, this gets me negative 2. Oop, those are the ones I want. So I'm going to have positive 5x and negative 7x. Now I'm going to go ahead and pull out my GCF of each side. Between x squared and negative 7x, there's an x. Between 5x and negative 35, there's a 5. And since they're not both negative, we just take out a positive 5. X squared and 5x, there's an x. And then negative 7x and negative 35, that's a negative 7. So then here are my 2 other factors. So the biggest thing that you have to remember is you took something out before you started factoring the middle part. So this is also part of your answer. Your final answer should be negative 2x times x minus 7 times x plus 5. So if on your homework or your notes or whatever, they put that little blank out here next to it, go ahead and write whatever you take out as your GCF first, and then go in and fill in what you can afterwards. And let's try another one. Okay, on number 2. We're going to go ahead and again, the first thing you're going to do is always look for your GCF. And you don't have to do the little T-charts underneath if you can already see what's the same in all of these. I know for a fact that there's a y that I can take out of every single one of these. Okay, because there's a y here, a y here, a y here. The other thing is I can tell they look like they might be divisible by 6, but this guy's not divisible by 6. So maybe they're all divisible by 3. Okay, so if I take a 3y out of everything, I'm left with 6 divided by 3 is 2. X squared, the y's are gone, they're out here, plus, then 3 goes into 39, 13 times, and then again just an x left over, and then 60 divided by 3 is 20. Okay, this one's nice. It doesn't have a negative leading coefficient thing, so we don't have to take out a negative. So again, if over on the side, on that blank part, if you want to write that I already took out a 3y, so my answer has to have a 3y in it, go ahead, go right ahead. So then I'm going to take this guy in my parentheses and try to factor that using my x box. I'm sorry, not x box, t box. Whoa, got an x in there. Okay, again, your squared term goes in the top left. Your number goes in your bottom right. We'll put an x, put an x. Draw your t. You're going to have a, which is 2, times 20. So we have 2 times 20 is 40. So we're looking for factors of 40. And the special thing about these factors is they need to add to the middle term, which is 13. Okay, and again, you can list out all your factors of 40. I'm pretty sure it's not 1 and 40, because when I add those two together, I definitely don't get 13. 2 and 20 gives me 22, not what I need. Let's keep thinking. We got 4 and 10. That gives me 14, so close. What about 5 and 8? Yay! That gets me 13. Okay, so that is the one that we're going to be using. So I'll go ahead and throw those in my box. I got a +5 and a +8. If you want to put your plus signs in there, perfect. Find your GCF between everything. So 2x squared and 5x will be an x. 8x and 20, they both can divide by 4. 2x squared and 8x, they can divide by 2x. And then if you want to, if you don't want to look and see the GCF between 5x and 20, you can say, well, what times 4 gives me 20? Oh, 5. And you can see that that would go into 5x as well. Okay, here are my two factors. Can't factor them any further, so I'm going to write my answer as a product. So x plus 4 times 2x plus 5. Here we go. And you are always welcome to go back through and re-multiply your answers out to make sure they give you your initial term. Let's keep going. Okay, number 3. The idea here, again, we're trying to get out anything that's the same. And if you can't see what you divide onto both of them, just go ahead and make your T-chart out and say, well, right here, I'm looking for those factors of 200. So, and then the factors of 32. So when I look right here, I know that 32 is a little bit easier for me to do, right? 1 and 32, 2 and 16, 4 and 8. And then we can keep going, 4 and 8. I'm losing some right here. Let's go back over to 200. One of the things you can do if you're ever stuck looking for a factor is to take your calculator. You can't even see my calculator right now. Well, maybe you can see it. And if I put in my calculator, I go to the y equals screen, and I clear out all this stuff. And I put the thing I'm trying to get a factor of. So if I put in 200, and then I type in divided by x, and I go look in the table, anything that has whole numbers are going to be my factors. So 1 and 200, 2 and 100, 4 and 50, 5 and 40, and you can just keep going down your table until you find some that match up that you need. So, ooh, that one looks good, 8 and 25. Let's see if 16 goes in. Nope, it doesn't. So it looks like the biggest thing that I can take into these, and again, don't forget your x's, is if I look right here, I have an 8 and an 8. and then one x that can come out. And again, if you see an x in both of them, then obviously that can be one of your GCF things. So I'm going to take out an 8x, see what's left. I have a 25 and then two x's. And then I have a 4 and no x's. Okay, you might think that this right here is done, but remember, whenever you're dealing with this two-term thing, it's really 25x squared plus 0x minus 4. And you can try to factor this, knowing if a is this and b is this and c is this. So this case, a is 25, b is 0, and c is negative 4. So if you figured out that hint yesterday, this might be really easy to solve. So if I go ahead and I'm factoring this 25x squared minus 4, throw it in my box, I get 25x squared up here in the top, minus 4. Here's an x, here's an x. And again, we're going to be looking for factors of a times c, so 25 times negative 4, which gets you negative 100. And again, you can use that calculator shortcut if you wanted to find some factors of negative 100 easily. So I know things like 2 and 50 will go in there. So maybe negative 2 and 50, and positive 2 and negative 50. But remember, I'm trying to add up to be 0. So I want something that's going to be the same. So what if I multiply 10 and negative 10? Equal but opposite. This right here will add to 0, and that's what I wanted to happen. So this will be 10x and negative 10x. Sorry about that, I ran out of room, so I moved some stuff over. Anyway, so now we're going to look for the GCF between all of the parts of my box. So I have a 5 and an x that can come out of this first column. I have a negative sign, so negative, and then 10 and 4 would be 2. So I have 25x squared and negative 10x. That would again be a 5x. And then right here, can't take out the negative. And I can always ask, what times negative 2 gets me negative 4? Well, positive 2. Okay, so again, here would be your factors of that binomial in the parentheses. So when you started this problem, don't forget you took an 8x out. So you have 8x times 5x minus 2 times 5x plus 2. Okay, and that would be simple, or that would be factored as far as we can get it. Let's do one more problem together. And look at number 4, x squared plus 5x plus 7. My first question is there a GCF? And I look in here and I say, well, there's no number GCF because there's a 1 here, a 5, and a 7. And they don't all share a letter, so there's no GCF, which is nice. And then I'm going to go get into my box. So I have my box. X squared goes on the top. 7 goes over here. Remember, we put an x and an x. And then I'm going to take 1, my a, times 7. So we're looking for the factors of 7 that add up to be 5. Well, let's think. So 7 would factor into 1 and 7, which gives me 8. And, nothing else can go into 7 because 7 is prime. It only multiplies 1 in itself. So because I don't have something that worked out, I don't have a 5. These aren't the same. That's a problem. I can't factor this any further. This expression is what we would call prime. The only factors are 1 in itself. That's something that you learned back in 7th grade, where you said 3 was prime or 7 was prime because you can only take 1 and that same number in order to get the factors for that. So because this one doesn't have any factors, it is prime. And that could happen. It's not going to happen very often, but you're going to see that sometimes you get a prime expression and you're not going to be able to factor it. So don't get frustrated and stop. Just say, okay, I can't find that number. It must be prime. Alrighty, so I would like you to pause this video right here and try these 4 problems, or 5 problems. I'll put the answers up so you can check your work. Alrighty, hopefully you guys got the same answers as me. You can see a lot of times you're going to take out a pretty small number. There's just 3's being taken out and a 4 over here. but sometimes there might be letters, so you might have a little bit extra to do. So, check your work, check with your neighbor. If you're confused on any of these, go ahead and find another teacher for tutorials this afternoon or tomorrow morning. Your homework tonight is going to be factoring day 2. It's 10 questions again. And if you notice, there are some of them that have the multiple choice options. So if you watched yesterday's video or you want to re-watch it, try to use that calculator shortcut to see if you can either check your work or go back through and make sure that you can find that answer just using that calculator. Okay, good luck on your homework tonight. You do have a quiz tomorrow. You may use your notes. You may use the homework that you finished. Don't forget to do your last page in your packet before you turn it in, because 5.2 is due tomorrow. Okay, have a great night. I'll see you guys on Monday.